Brookline's earliest history begins at the town green. The town green lies at the geographic center of Brookline and at the focal point of early colonial transportation, along the old Sherburne Road. As such, it grew into the town's first municipal center. In 1697, the first schoolhouse was built in the vicinity. A few years later, further construction included a meeting house, the earliest of which stood near the first parish on Walnut Street. There had been a number of town meeting houses, one of which was Pierce Hall. Built in 1825, it quickly became a staple of town life, serving as a school and a townhouse, among other functions. In 1890, it was added to the first parish and named for Reverend John Pierce. A number of prominent sites are located in the town green area, the first of which is the square itself. In reality a triangle of land, its simple and unassuming character masks a colorful history. In 1775, local militias gathered at the site to march west and combat British troops at the Battle of Lexington. A plaque commemorates this event, as well as the founding of Brookline 70 years earlier. Located further along Walnut Street is the old burying ground. It opened in 1717 on the site of an old garrison house, on property owned by Samuel Clark, Jr., and was subsequently expanded in 1840. It was Brookline's only burial ground until the Walnut Hills Cemetery opened in 1875. Among those buried here include Mary Boylston, the great-grandmother of President John Adams, Edward Devotion of the Devotion House and School, Zabdiel Boylston, pioneer of smallpox inoculation, and Francis Channing Barlow, a Civil War general. In fact, the burying ground serves as the final resting place of numerous Revolutionary and Civil War veterans. Also located in the town green is the Brookline Reservoir. Tapped in 1848, the man-made body of water fed into Boston's water supply for half a century. It was owned and operated by the city of Boston until 1902, when it was sold. Fearing excessive development, it was purchased in part by local Brookline dwellers. In 1844, the Civic Center moved to Brookline Village, and the area was left to develop into a mere residential neighborhood, with its municipal activity a memory of the past. Although houses have been built since the 1700s, the town green's quiet, narrow roads, solitary green spaces, and dignified homes provide a snapshot of the 18th century and that of Brookline's beginnings. Brookline Village remained largely undeveloped in the 1700s. One notable site in the area was, for many years, the Punch Bowl Tavern. Built in 1730, it stood near Pearl and Washington Streets. A center of community social life, town inhabitants were able to exchange news and stories with the outside world drew travelers and passers-by along the nearby routes. It was raised in 1833, and purportedly nearby buildings were constructed with the tavern's timbers. The demolition of the Punch Bowl Tavern signaled a new era for Brookline Village, with increased road access as exemplified by the Worcester Turnpike and the introduction of the rails in 1847. Commercial growth soon followed. In 1844, the Civic Center moved to the area, when a new town hall was built to replace Pierce Hall. The neighborhood has homed 3 town halls in total. The second was constructed in 1870 and stood until 1963, when the third and current town hall replaced it. Also located along Washington Street, adjacent to the town hall, is the main branch of the Brookline Public Library. As well as the town police station across the street. Residential and commercial growth continued into the late 19th century, particularly with a bevy of red brick and stone buildings. A few examples of industries in the area included livery, stables, and taverns. For many years, the Holzer Cabot Company operated on Station Street, manufacturing various gadgets, alarms, and motors. In 1891, it produced the first electric automobile in the United States for a local resident. In 1915, the company moved to Roxbury. Brookline Village has seen many of its buildings replaced by development and the styles of the ensuing decades of the 20th century, but it remains a snapshot of the 19th. The area's stately urban edifices, thriving streets of businesses, and red brick character have captured the qualities of that period, when Brookline began to experience significant industrial and commercial growth. Longwood sits at the entranceway to Brookline, on its eastern border with Boston. The Longwood Avenue crossing traverses the muddy river. The original bridge was of wooden construction and helped make the land more accessible. In 1898, when the surrounding park was designed by Olmsted and incorporated into Boston's Emerald Necklace, a new stone bridge was built. The area itself was developed by David Sears and William and Amos Lawrence. In the early 19th century, Sears acquired some property and helped develop it into an exclusive residential enclave. In the 1830s, he laid out the Longwood Mall, named for Napoleon's place of detention at St. Helena. This mall was planted with thousands of trees, particularly of European beech. It was donated to the town in 1902. These properties, predominantly south of Beacon Street, collectively retained the name Longwood. Beginning in the mid-19th century, William and Amos Lawrence developed much of the area north of Beacon Street, which would ultimately be named Cottage Farm. Two sites in the area are emblematic of how each half developed in the 20th century. Cottage Farm, limited substantial housing and other development projects. Situated within it is Amory Park. Originally there existed expansive wetlands containing many cedar trees, appropriately named Cedar Swamp. The swamp drained into the Charles River. By the mid-1800s, development shrunk the size of the swamp to just 1 acre, encompassing Swallow Pond. In 1903, the Amory homestead was purchased by the town, and Amory Park was established. Hall's Pond was purchased in 1975 and has since preserved wildlife and the natural beauty of the area's original character. The park and the pond's very existence testify to the restrictive nature of Cottage Farm. The Longwood area, by contrast, had seen many large estates, mansions, and houses constructed. Although a number still stand prominently in the area, many others were replaced by apartment complexes and buildings in the 1920s and 30s. One example of this is the Longwood Towers. Built in 1924, they overlook the Muddy River and the Longwood Avenue Stone Bridge.